I'm Joe Kramer, composer for Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to listen to Movie Week in Review from the Geekcast Radio Network.
This is Dave. He really enjoys going to the movies. He's always considerate to his fellow moviegoers. This fellow is disturbing everyone around him. Oh, look, Dave is shutting off his phone. Now is not the time for talking or texting. Oh, well, now look at that. There's a true movie-watching friend. Let's all be more like Dave.
This is M-Wire, Movie Week in Review. M-Wire is brought to you by Audible.com. Sign up today to get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/geekcastradio. Start today with a free 30-day trial with over 100,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Don't forget to follow Audible on Twitter at audible_com. And now the latest and greatest in movies with M-Wire.
Hello and welcome to Movie Week in Review. That's right, this is M-Wire here on the Geekcast Radio Network. Of course, I am TFG1 Mike. This is episode 134. And as I've said in 132 to 134 now, the goal of M-Wire, when I set aloft episode 130, which was our Mission Impossible episode, from episode, wow, I can't even talk now. The goal from episode 130 to 149 was to go back and cover stuff we haven't really had a chance to cover in the last 7 or 8 years or so. And this is continuing. We had the Rocky franchise at 132, we had Rambo at 133, and now we've got the Karate Kung Fu Kid in Eduardo.
Very good introduction, Michael-san.
Yes, exactly. So we're here to talk about the Karate Kid franchise. Started in 1984, continued till 1994, and then went dormant until 2010, until Will Smith's kid needed a job.
Or Will Smith wanted to get his kid a job.
There is that. Briefly, before we get too far into it, had you seen, I remember seeing the Karate Kid movies I remember seeing the 3 movies as a kid, but I don't ever remember. I was 4 years old when the first one came out. I know that if I didn't go see Ghostbusters in the theater at 4 years old, I know I did not see this at 4 years old in a theater. But when was the first time you remember seeing the first Karate Kid movie?
First time I remember seeing it, this was, first time I remember seeing it was when my older siblings had rented it from the video store, and we sat and watched it. Honestly, I don't think I ever saw any of the Karate Kid movies in theaters.
Yeah, I know I didn't.
I saw them all at home. I might have seen Karate Kid 2 in the theater. I'm not sure. I know definitely that I saw 1, 3 next, and Kung Fu Kid at home. Yeah. Which, as far as the last 2 are concerned, good, because then my wallet wouldn't be crying.
For me, as I said, I know I did not see these in theaters. I must have seen the first movie maybe right before the second movie came out, and because again, remember folks, this is the 80s. Movies do not come out within a 6-month or 3-month time span back then. Movies usually did not hit media release, well, what I call media release now, VHS, Betamax, whatever, Laserdisc, who knows. They did not come out after 6 months of being in the theater. You had movies at this time being in the theaters for 6 or 8 months. And then a year and a half or so later is when they would hit VHS and all that. So I think for me with this franchise, at least with the first 3, I saw the first one right before the second one hit theaters. I saw the second one right before the third one hit theaters, and so on and so forth. And I think it might have been 1991 before I saw the third one. So I remember enjoying these as a kid. I still enjoy the original trilogy now. I enjoy the next Karate Kid. It's not a bad movie when you look at it in the context of it's a different path for Miyagi. It's a different student. There's no real mention. Okay, they mention it, and we'll get into it, but there's no real mention of Daniel-san by name. And then I so avoided the reboot. I did not see the reboot until about 4 hours before we recorded this podcast. No. So, to get the behind-the-scenes things out of the way, lights, camera, action, theatrical release dates for all of the movies. The first movie was June 22nd of 84. Second movie, June 20th of 86. Third movie, June 30th of 89. Are you seeing a pattern here yet, folks? These were all summer blockbusters. And then the next Karate Kid was September 9th of 94. And then
Wow, a day before my birthday.
Uh-huh. Yep. Hilary Swank, happy birthday to you. All right, anyway. And then the reboot was back in June of 2010, June 11th, 2010. The directors of each of the films, John Avildsen, I assume that's how you pronounce his name, directed the first three. Christopher Kane was Next Karate Kid, and Harold Zwart was the director of the 2010 version. The stars of the film, obviously Ralph Macchio, Pat Morita, Hilary Swank. Michael Ironside was the villain in Next Karate Kid. You had, I forget who Kreese's actor's name was off the top of my head. And you had a bunch of other people. Like, I wasn't sure who I was going... because I have not watched the first three movies in four. The first four. I have not watched these films in years. Like, literally, I have never really gone back to it. And it was funny, when we were planning this to be one of the M-Wire episodes here in the 130s, as soon as I started pimping it out, saying, hey, anybody want to talk with me about this? And you had, spoke up, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I have a certain website, which I will not divulge, that I go to find certain movies that, anyway. And as soon as I went to find all four of these movies on that website, the first two pop up in Hulu Plus. Shit. I think Mr. Miyagi threw a piece of rice down my throat, folks. So, over the last 2 or 3 days, over the last week or so, I have watched all four of these films. Like I said before, I watched the Kung Fu Kid, because that's what I'm going to call it the rest of this podcast, folks. This is not the Karate Kid. The 2010 version is not.
That's because you're being honest. It's they're in China. It's Kung Fu.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, I watched that about 4.5 hours ago before we recorded this. So getting into some of the box office stuff, and then we'll talk a bit about the cast, but the main focus is going to be notes on all four of these films. The box office for these movies is crazy. The first film had an $8 million budget, and it made $90.8 million at the box office. The second movie had a $13 million budget, and it made $115.1 million. So by far, the second is the biggest one yet. Third movie had a budget of $12.5 million and made $38.9 million. Next Karate Kid, sadly by far the lowest performer, with a $12 million budget and a $15.8 million box office. And somehow, some way, Kung Fu Kid with a $40 million budget. Look, I know it's 2010. I know budgets get inflated over 30 years or so, but Jesus Christ, it had a box office of $359.1 million. How and why?
I'd chalk it up to just Will Smith pimping his kid out.
Uh-huh.
Will Smith pimped his kid out, and the studio wisely thought, okay, let's make sure that people know that the new Mr. Miyagi is Jackie Chan.
I will talk about that later.
This is it. This is the end of the line. Telling me. Did I tell you about the pool here?
For Daniel LaRusso,
Is this the only pool you guys got?
the future seemed far from terrific.
This place is a dump. You should go back to New Jersey.
Hey, I know it's hard, but we're not quitters, are we?
Until he met the right girl.
She's beautiful. I say she's beautiful. I think she's beautiful. Is that your address? You got it.
But that only angered the wrong guy.
You know, country club at 9:30. Definitely. You gotta be nuts.
And his troubles really began.
You have to push it. Right. Hey.
Then, in one man, he found a teacher.
I promise, teach karate.
And a friend.
Fighting, always last answer. Power, whole body. Make a perfect picture.
How do I know if my picture's the right one?
If come from inside you, always right on. Lesson about the balance, not just karate. Lesson for whole life. Why train?
So I won't have to fight. Hey, Karate Kid, let's make a move.
Points or no points, you're dead meat.
I don't have much of a cheering section. You got me.
In the end, it will be in Daniel's hands. In his body. And most of all, in his mind.
Concentrate, focus, power. Remember balance. No mercy.
Columbia Pictures presents The Karate Kid.
Hey, what kind of belt do you have?
JC Penney, 398.
Oh boy. So some of the cast here. In the first film, as I said, we've got Ralph Macchio, Pat Morita, Elizabeth Shue of Al plays Allie Mills, and I was like, what's Mrs. McFly doing in here?
Wow, she gets around. She dates karate students.
She was had adventures in babysitting. She was drinking cocktails with Tom Cruise.
Yep.
Yeah, whole bunch of stuff.
She has busy weekends, definitely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Martin Cove was John Kreese, and Randy Heller was Lucille LaRusso, Daniel's mother. I like all of... Oh, wow. I did not even notice this. Holy crap, how did I not notice this? This is the second time I've not noticed in an uncredited role. Holy crap. Okay, so Elizabeth Shue is the main female star here, opposite Ralph Macchio's Daniel LaRusso, and she's the love interest. In two films that she's been a star in the 80s, her younger brother, Andrew Shue, has had uncredited cameo roles. And in this one, he was an uncredited member of the Cobra Kai. The other film that he had an uncredited cameo role in was at the very end of Cocktail. He was in the bar when Tom Cruise and Elizabeth Shue were celebrating that they were having twins. For anyone that doesn't know Andrew Shue, go back to 1992, 25 years ago, and watch Melrose Place. Billy Campbell. And silence, because nobody watches Melrose Place but me.
Well,
alrighty then.
No, the only thing I remember about Melrose Place is it had the redhead from Desperate Housewives as the as Crazy Kimberly, who blew up Melrose Place, and then for her troubles got electroshock therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't she also get lobotomized?
I think so. Yes, I don't know. I don't remember.
I remember the electroshock part. I don't remember the lobotomy.
Yeah, no. So
somebody probably has a joke there about that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what did you think of the cast? We'll talk about the plots later, but what did you think of the cast of the first film?
Well, good cast. Martin Cove does a great job as Kreese. I actually have a theory about Kreese, which we could get into when we get into plot.
Okay.
But yeah, I think I think good cast. casting Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi was a stroke of genius. Mm-hmm. Like I can't honestly, I can't picture anybody else. I know that what's his name, Mako, who did the Conan movies. I know he was somebody that they thought of for Mr. Miyagi, but I love Mako, but I can't picture anybody else as the role of Mr. Miyagi.
The studio originally wanted Toshiro Mifune.
Toshiro Mifune. Yeah, and I love, and again, this is one of those things where I love the actor. He's one of the leads in my favorite miniseries, Shogun. Love him in 1984, but I think for this kind of thing, you need somebody with a little bit more of a sense of comedy than I think with all due respect, the late great Toshiro Mifune would be able to provide.
And they do say here that the reason why they didn't give him the job was because the writer of the film said that the interpretation of the character lacked the warmth and humor that the role needed. And, I mean, Pat Morita gave... Miyagi's a funny guy, folks. He really is.
Oh, yeah. No.
He can be serious, but he can also be funny, and that is what works for that one. The second movie, obviously, most of the main cast is back, at least Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita. You had Denny Kamekona as Sato. You had Tamlin Tomita as Kumiko. And this one, pretty much, honestly, Morita and Macchio are the only two really that I even recognize. I feel, okay, outside, because, and well, okay, the one thing I want to talk about with the first two films before we get into the actual plot is how they start out. They start, again, remember, folks, this is the 1980s. This is when we didn't need $1 million opening explosions. You know what I mean? This is when films were subtle, still. The opening credits for both the first and the second movie. The first movie, it basically opens up with white text on black background. It goes a little red when it becomes the Karate Kid title. And it's very simple. It's just Bill Conti's score over the titles. And then we open up. With the second one, we get a recap of the first movie, which I was not expecting. I did not remember that. What I remember before I rewatched this from the first, from the second movie originally, was the first scene being the whole 6 months later thing. I did not remember the recap. But what I liked about it was how, again, you opened up really slowly with just the titles, with just the music, and then the rest of the movies just kind of throw out that subtlety. So, in the third movie, we have a bunch of new people, new and old. Obviously, as I said, Macchio and Morita. Robin Lively played Jessica Andrews. Thomas Ian Griffith was introduced as Terry Silver. Martin Kove was back as Kreese. Sean Kanan was Mike Barnes. Let's see here. There was another one in here that I recognized. I don't remember off the top of my head now. I swear I recognized another one of their cronies.
I think one of their cronies was actually the director's son.
Yeah.
Like, I think he was supposed to be, he was supposed to be Mike Barnes, and they were like, nah, so they gave him the part of, like, crony number 1 or something like that.
Yep. The interesting thing about the second movie's casting, James Trevette is in this movie, folks. That's right, Clarence Gilliard from Die Hard. Because he's in the scene with the ice blocks. When it comes to the next Karate Kid, obviously Pat Morita, Hilary Swank. You had Michael Ironside. So this one was kind of the first one that really had a big bad villain name that I noticed. Like, I know, the Cove, the actor Cove who played Kreese and all that and everything else, but
Didn't he do Cagney and Lacey? Wasn't that like the thing he did before the Karate Kid movies?
You mean Cove or Ironside?
Cove.
It might be. I'm not.
I could have sworn that I remember just seeing the TV on and they had Cagney and Lacey, and the next you know it's look, it's Martin Cove, and I'm like, oh, isn't that the evil sensei from Karate Kid?
You also had Chris Conrad as Eric McGowan in here. For those of you who may or may not have seen this, you'd have recognized him as Jack from 1993's Airborne with Shane McDermott and Brittany Powell. And then you had, which I was surprised. I did not know this. I did not remember this until I saw it. And I'm like, hey, I know that guy. You had Shane Vendrell from The Shield as Charlie. Walton Goggins is in the Karate Kid, the next Karate Kid. I'm like, what the hell is Shane Vendrell doing in this movie?
You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, gotta start somewhere. And then in the reboot, the Kung Fu Kid, the cast, obviously Will Smith's kid, who needed a job apparently. Jackie Chan, Taraji P. Henson as Dre's mother, and a bunch of other people that I don't even know, that I'm not even going to try to pronounce their names. Let's get this out of the way right now. The reboot is a reboot. They tried to include elements of the original 1984 movie. There are some moments with Mr. Han that I do laugh at and kind of enjoy because it's homaging what Morita did as Miyagi in the first film. But there's just no comparison to Morita as Miyagi. I know Chan as Mr. Han is not... I know it's not the same damn character. I get that. I understand that. But there's just something about Jackie Chan in this movie that I just don't like. And I would never normally say that because I love Jackie Chan's movies. But at this point, looking at this film, the dude is old. He can still bust out the moves, but not as well as he used to.
Yeah, I love Jackie Chan too. I love the mix of martial arts and humor, but yeah, there was a certain point where you could tell that he's getting on. Mm-hmm. He's just getting on in years, and it's not. I don't know. It's like not fun anymore.
Yeah, when he made this movie, he was somewhere in his mid to late 50s, I think. Because right now it says he's 62 years old. So, I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't. Yeah, he was 56 when he made this. When he made the reboot. And I know a lot of 56-year-olds that can still, cut it and everything else. But I mean, Jackie just kind of looked tired in this. And the different styles of the way Miyagi did, because again, it's karate versus kung fu, folks. It's not, what Jackie Chan is doing is not karate. So when he was fighting the kids in that very first scene, when he first comes out and fights, and I see him trying to avoid the kids to try to have them basically beat each other up, I'm like, that just looks bad. It just looks bad. So the first film, getting into plots and notes and all that good, goofy stuff. The first film follows Daniel LaRusso and his mother from New Jersey out to California because her job transferred her to California. And he's having a tough time at school. He's kind of getting bullied, and we run into the maintenance man at the apartment complex, who just happens to be Mr. Miyagi. They strike up a friendship. Miyagi trains him in the form of karate, and eventually the Cobra Kai come in and do all this stuff, and we end up with a tournament, and and everything else. What were your thoughts going back and watching this again?
You know what? I still like it. Something watching it as an adult. Something that occurred to me. You have John Kreese, who's like the evil sensei. Turning karate into like, karate. No mercy. This is not for the weak. Et cetera, et cetera. It's looking back on it. We know that John Kreese had some military time and, was elaborated on in Karate Kid 3 that he went to Vietnam. Mm-hmm. So looking back on it as an adult, I kind of have to wonder, you think maybe John Kreese had a little bit of PTSD?
Yeah, he could have.
Yeah, I kind of find myself thinking, the stuff he went through over there probably messed him up, and he just came back with this like, wow, I try to go over there and do good, and I got like Viet Cong attacking me left and right. Maybe the deal is screw everybody and just make sure that you're the strongest guy around and make sure that everybody knows don't mess with you.
Yeah, well, I think the thing of it is he had the mentality because he was, and I'm just speaking of the character, folks. I was not alive during Vietnam, so
yeah.
But we've seen more than enough movies, whether it's documentaries, whether it's fictionalized movies about Vietnam, to say that was one hell of a war. That was a war we lost. And maybe that kind of contributed to it because he was like, fight at all costs, beat your enemy until, until he's dead. Yeah. And that's what they had to do over there. So
yeah. And also, I mean, you look at the in the finale during the tournament. Mm-hmm. He told that one Cobra Kai kid, he said, sweep the leg.
Yeah.
He was willing to sacrifice one of his students getting disqualified.
Yeah.
Simply to hurt Daniel.
Yeah.
It's like he had enough of a code that when Miyagi came to him, he was like, okay, fine, leave Daniel alone. We'll settle this in the ring. But even then, that wasn't enough to stop him from thinking win at all costs. So I'm going to have this kid thrown to the wolves and disqualified just so that Johnny can win.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was victory over anything.
Yeah. And what I like about the first film is how, honestly, it's how Miyagi teaches Daniel the karate. He basically makes him his houseboy. And makes him do all the work, but the work eventually, comes into the karate moves, and I like that way of teaching. At least with these two characters, I think that's a good thing.
I kind of wonder. I kind of wonder if someone were to talk to like an actual martial arts instructor, what they would say, like whether or not these techniques would actually contribute to something. Like I'd be curious to hear the opinion of somebody who actually teaches martial arts if it is possible to use something like wax on, wax off as kind of a gateway towards technique.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the whole time I'm watching this movie and wax on, wax off, and I'm saying on Twitter, I'm watching this movie, and everybody's like, wax on, wax. First thing I think of is Turtles 2, I think it is. Turtles 2. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, mouth off. The first film has such a nice pacing to it. It's not too rushed that it doesn't go so slow that you want to rip your eyeballs out like with most old westerns. Absolutely love that pacing, and it's just such a great movie. It's a movie that, having gone back and watched it again now, I could probably go back and watch this, a year or so down the line and still enjoy it. I really think this movie has stood the test of time.
Yeah. It's still, I think it still works.
Mm-hmm. One of my other notes was, as I've pretty much already said, the film has a solid plot, Has great acting from everybody all around. Excellent fast action spots while still giving life lessons and slow moments. Like the whole thing with the fly, catching the fly with the child, that was just so awesome.
Yeah. Well, and also the I think another great slow scene is where Mr. Miyagi is celebrating the anniversary. We actually see him in uniform, and we get to know a little bit more about his background.
Yeah.
Which is that's one of those things. Watching it as an adult. You see like the contrast because we have Kreese coming out of a more recent conflict that ended on a bad note, and then Miyagi.
World War II.
World War II, and he probably, I think it's implied that his family were one of the ones that got interned.
Yeah.
And yet he served and he got honored for it. So we have two warriors from two different generations and two different approaches to to the subject at hand. So I think that's interesting.
Absolutely. With the second movie, as we already said, it opens up with the whole recap. Because again, this is back in the day, one of my first notes here is, remember folks, in the 1980s, sequels weren't just cash grabs. They were meant to continue the story of the first film. I love the way this opens clean, black and white, with a bit of red on the titles, with just Bill Conti's score in the background. But then, how were they, outside of newspapers and things like that, like, I don't even think Moviefone was around in 1986, no,
I don't think so either.
So having a 5-minute, 10-minute recap at the beginning of this was kind of nice if you had not seen the first one in a while. Now, for me, obviously, I watched them all. I watched the first three back to back. What?
Wow.
Well, I have no life anymore, so, I might as well fill it up with movies, right?
Well, hey, at least you're filling it up with some good, with like at least a couple of good movies. It's not like you're going through the Canon Films catalog and just gorging on that. Yeah. If that was the case, I'd have to worry about you. I'd have to call somebody to check on you.
Yeah. And honestly, the greatest thing about the second film is that it did not stay in California. I love the first film as much as anybody, but going to Okinawa was a great way to get to know the Miyagi part of the film duo. I thought that was really, really fun and interesting.
And it's nice that, after having the first movie is, all Daniel's story, it's nice to get a little bit more background on Mr. Miyagi and see where he came from and, see where he grew up, things like that.
Yeah.
Talking about the recap in the beginning. I like the fact that it's a quick recap. For those of you who don't remember, don't miss. Who didn't see. Those who didn't see the movie, those who kind of can't remember. Okay, so here's what remember here. Daniel-san, moved to California. Bullies. Mr. Miyagi helped him. He won the tournament. And then I also like how they were able to fit in that scene that they weren't able to do for the first one.
At the end of the first one, where you bleed the knuckles,
Yeah, where we have the we have like a coda with with the Cobra Kai people where finally Kreese kind of gets his comeuppance in the sense that finally his whole style of karate just comes back and bites him in the ass because he goes too far and his students are like, what, fuck this, what are we doing here, just forget it.
Yep, absolutely. And of course, nobody can forget which I knew it was this, but I didn't know why it was this because I did not remember the female lead in the second film. But nobody can forget Peter Cetera's "Gloria Love" as the anthem to this movie.
Oh yeah. No, that was...
Tonight it's very clear as we're both lying here. There's so many things I wanna say. I will always love you. I would never leave you alone. Sometimes I just forget, say things I might regret. It breaks my heart to see you crying. I don't wanna lose you. I could never make it alone. I am a man who will fight for your honor. I'll be the hero you're dreaming of. We'll live forever, knowing together that we did it all for the glory of love. You keep me standing tall. You help me through it all. I'm always strong when you're beside me. I have always needed you. I could never make it alone. I am a man who will fight for your honor. I'll be the hero you've been dreaming of. We'll live forever, knowing together that we did it all for the glory of love. It's like a knight in shining armor from a long time ago. Just in time, I will save the day. Take you to my castle far away. I am a man who will fight for your honor. I'll be the hero that you're dreaming of. We're gonna live forever, knowing together that we did it all for the glory of love. We'll live forever, knowing together that we did it all for the glory of love. We did it all for love. We did it all for love. We did it all for
You know, and honestly, I like this. I like this song.
Yeah, I like it too.
I really do. It's a cool song. I have the album that it came with.
Solitude. You mean the movie
Yeah.
or the? Okay.
Not the movie soundtrack, but like.
Oh, Solitude Solitaire. Yeah.
Yeah, I have, and it's got some pretty good songs. I mean, it's got Gloria Love. It's got a great one, a very catchy one called Queen of the Masquerade Ball.
Yep. Love
And
that
then
track.
it's also got another. It's got another nice love ballad called Next Time I Fall.
Yeah, that's with him and Amy Grant. Yeah, absolutely love that.
Yep.
I actually listen to those songs a lot. I have that album, so...
Well, hey, funny story. I mean, which relates back to one of the other things that we recorded.
Yeah.
We recorded all the stuff for the Spider-Man animated series.
Right.
I had a dream once where I was watching this, like an animated Spider-Man film.
Oh, no.
And they ended up using Glory of Love in it. Because, of course, it had Spider-Man and Mary Jane, and, they used that. And so it's like... So for me, for the longest time, I associated this song with a Spider-Man dream, using not Glory of Love, but Next Time I Fall.
Next Time I Fall.
Next Time I Fall, yeah. You have it actually played over the end credits because it's like Spidey and Mary Jane swinging off into the sunset and cue Peter Cetera.
Wow, that's funny.
I don't know where, I don't know how that came about. It's just. For some reason, it just the two things connected in my brain.
Mm-hmm. And I think what's interesting with this movie is that, as you said, with the second one, we get all of Miyagi's backstory because they're in Okinawa. So it's the journey of this village and the journey of Miyagi and his former friend Sato and that whole thing, and I just absolutely love it. And the way that I initially wrote, I forgot to mention this at the beginning before we get into the plot details for each of the movies here. The Karate Kid film franchise, to me, at least the first three films, mirror Back to the Future. Go with me here on this. Okay.
All right.
In that, two of them are about Marty or Daniel, and the third is about Doc, as well as Miyagi. Because if you look at Back to the Future 3, that's an adventure for Marty and Doc, whereas the first two films were all about Marty. And if you look at the Karate Kid movies, the first movie was about Daniel, the second movie was about Miyagi, and the third movie was about Daniel again, and Daniel and Miyagi both, but they do kind of mirror each other a little bit with the characterizations of which one of the stars gets the spotlight for the role that they're playing.
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah, no, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I can see that. I can see it.
What was your favorite scene from the second one?
Oh, geez. The second one, I don't know what it is. I like this. I think of all three of the original trilogy.
Yeah.
I like the second one the most, and it's like I can't pinpoint like the one scene where I'm like, this is what sold it for me, because I like the scene where he destroys the ice blocks. I like the scene where after Miyagi's father passes away, where Daniel sits next to him and just tries to comfort his master, his sensei. I like the scene where Miyagi and Daniel rescue Sato during the monsoon, and then Sato pays it back by helping Daniel and rags on his nephew, for not doing anything.
Yeah, the monsoon scene by far is one of the best scenes out of the movie.
Of course, what I do love is that it does give payoff for the fact that earlier you saw Sato trying to work on the wooden board, and you also had a thing where Daniel and Miyagi see like the advertisement for Sato's dojo, and there he is like breaking a board in half, and Daniel goes, "Can you break a board like that?" And Miyagi says, "Don't know, never been attacked by tree." But what happens? Sato's pinned to a board, and Miyagi manages to break it and help his friends. So I like that there's payoff for that.
Absolutely. Getting into the Karate Kid 3, immediately I did not like how they opened the movie.
Yeah. Well, we get like
I agree with the small recap, but this time it just felt forced to me, because there's no quiet opening title with just the Bill Conti score. It's it's the opening of, the scene, and the titles are mixed in with the... I don't like that. I just wish that would have stayed the way it was.
Yeah, well, as far as the recaps, what I do like about the recap is that it kind of sets you up for what the film is going to be about. That, this film is coming back to California and, dealing with the fact that Kreese just can't get over it. And unfortunately, he's enabled by his old army buddy, who's just like, okay, so how about this? Go chill in Tahiti, and I'm going to mentally torture this kid. Mm-hmm. Which the thing for me is that this is where, it's one thing I said before, in the first movie, Kreese is all about, sweep the leg, finish him, and, all that, but at least he had enough of a code that when Mr. Miyagi came to him and said, why don't we settle this, in the tournament, right, that Kreese was enough like, okay, that's where we'll, all right, we'll settle it there, and I'll have my guys back off. But here he goes into straight-out villainy because he's absolutely okay with his friend just putting Daniel through mental and physical torture.
Yeah,
like he's okay with the teenage kid getting going through this.
Yeah,
it's like he crossed the line.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, we get introduced to Terry Silver. We don't really see what's going on with Kreese right away. We see him eventually, and Terry sends him to Thailand.
To Thailand or Tahiti? I know it was someplace.
I thought it was Thailand. I don't know. He sends him somewhere. Anyway,
somewhere tropical to hang out with bikini babes.
And then Terry Silver kind of ingratiates himself into Miyagi's dojo and into Daniel-san's life, and tells him that Kreese died, which isn't true. And Terry's going to, and the whole point of this one is Daniel wants to, they went to Okinawa, they did the Miyagi story, they, went and saved his village, and now he's back, and it's the next kind of year thing, and he wants to defend his title, but Miyagi won't train him.
Yeah.
So there's that, and because Miyagi won't train him, Daniel kind of gets this resentment and kind of gets this anger, and, let the hate flow through you, come to the dark side of the Force.
Well, Terry Silver is wearing a black gi.
Yeah, he is.
So there you go. He's got a little Sith thing going on. It's like, hey, the audience knows he's evil because number one, we saw him plotting with Kreese, and he's wearing a black gi and he's got a ponytail.
Yeah, Sith over there with the ponytail dude.
Yeah, exactly. Ponytail dude in the black gi. Sit with him.
Yeah. So Daniel gets really, really angry, and he kind of adopts this whole anger thing and this, fight, almost like the Cobra Kais, and Silver eventually makes his knuckles bleed like Kreese told him to do, because that's what Miyagi did to... Technically, Miyagi didn't do it to Kreese. Kreese did it to himself, but yeah. And Daniel finally obviously comes to his senses. The whole other part of the story is Jessica, the little girl across the street, and they go to find this bonsai tree that Miyagi first brought over, this natural wild bonsai, because they set up a bonsai shop across from her pottery shop, and there's that. I like the third movie. It's not my favorite, but it's not the worst sequel in the world.
No, it's not. It's not, but you could kind of tell that they... I don't know, it just felt like... I think this came out 89, right? Like 3 years after the...
Yeah.
There are certain things that kind of feel like... they just felt, okay, enough time has gone by, let's do a sequel. And it just... I don't know how to, I don't know how to describe it, but there is a certain tiredness, that just... It's like, well, we got to do a sequel because we got to do a sequel.
Yeah. My note about Kreese was that he does go to Thailand because when he enters the airport, just as he enters it, Daniel and Miyagi exit it. They barely miss meeting each other at the airport.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's the thing. Watching it again, like watching it recently, and I got lucky because there was like a channel on cable. I think it was Sundance that was running the Karate Kid movies. So I did have to go with commercial interruption, but I still that's how I saw the third one. Right. And just kind of going through it, like on the one hand, Miyagi's got a point because karate is not about winning tournaments and things like that. On the other hand, it's one of those things where like you kind of wonder, couldn't a lot of problems have been solved by somebody being like Daniel's getting harassed by by Mike Barnes.
Right.
Mike Barnes is trying to push him into doing the tournament. This isn't exactly all that legal, but instead it's just okay. We have both sides kind of going on this stubborn streak, and so it's like okay, this is not going to end. This is not going to end well. But
yeah, no, it's not. And what I love is Daniel's character regression and then his potential future progression. Because, as I said, his entire character changes 2 different times throughout this movie. We start out with him he's kind of a little bit full of himself because he's the champion, because he wants to defend, and he just doesn't understand why Miyagi won't let him do it and why Miyagi won't train him. And then we get to the whole point of, silver and everything else and all that. And then, we get to this dark side of him that we had not seen before in the previous 2 films. And he realizes how far down the rabbit hole he went. And he understands his mistake. So he then, comes back up and becomes the same kind of character we knew from the first film. And I think that's great character development when you can show us a different side of him without actually taking away his character development and then giving him more is amazing, interesting, and awesome.
Yeah, I think his character regressed a little bit, but it's more out of frustration from the fact that he doesn't want to fight, but he's getting pushed. He's getting pushed into a corner where he has no choice, and this is so yeah, and he also just grows in the sense that he kind of realizes it's like, look, this Mr. Miyagi is like a surrogate father to me. What am I doing?
Yep, absolutely. All right, so the next Karate Kid, 1994. We go from California to Boston, of all places. I thought that I did not remember that. I did not remember that the exteriors, most of the exteriors for this happened in Boston. And we it's like it's Boston. But I'm trying. Like I did watch it recently, but it escapes me. Did they actually say that this is indeed Boston? I think the overshot of the city is Boston, but I'm not sure if any of the close-up shots are.
Yeah. No.
I'm not exactly sure on that.
But I don't. Yeah, I knew it was in California, but I was straining for some sort of identification, kind of dialogue or something along those lines.
Right.
Like,
it is, according to, the all-knowing, all-correct Wikipedia, all the interior and exterior high school scenes were filmed on the Brookline High School campus, except for the scene in the gymnasium. The exterior shot is the Brookline High School gym, but the interior was another gym at Tufts University. Other scenes from the movie were shot in the Boston area. For example, the scenes at Julie's house were filmed in nearby Newton. So it was, it was mostly filmed in Boston, but I pretty much figured most of the interior shots were not, because most of the time they won't do that. They'll do exterior shots in certain cities, but interior ones they won't.
Yeah.
What?
Something. But I think the biggest thing for me with Next Karate Kid is okay. So yeah, they brought Pat Morita back, and they thought, okay, let's have a female student. So we have moments like Miyagi walking in on her accidentally, and but for me, I mean, you get one reference to Daniel, which was like offhand. It was just, I think at one point he goes,
"Boy, easier to train."
Yeah, boy, yeah. Did boy once, Daniel-san. But they couldn't like, I don't know, just write just write like 2 lines or something to explain where is Daniel and all this.
Where is Daniel?
Yeah, like they couldn't, like they couldn't have something where he just goes, like after the training thing, it's like, have other student. He moved to Japan, make own dojo, something like that, just something like, okay, Miyagi's in Boston, but Daniel's like over, Daniel did this, just to kind of indicate that, Daniel's moved on. I mean,
at first I thought they were going to say something along the lines of, because the whole point of the beginning of this next Karate Kid film is him in the 442nd getting honored at this military presentation. And he meets up with an old friend of his and I like this about this film, how they tie him to Julie, because he fought with her grandfather in the war. So this movie is not, yes, I get it, it's different. Yes, I get it. It's a girl. It's not Daniel-san. It's different, but the way it's written, the way the plot is, it makes sense. Because it ties to Miyagi, and it ties him to her, and her grandmother is an old friend of his, and the grandmother, basically they do a house swap, essentially. That's essentially what it is. And when he said, you can go stay in California because you need a vacation, whatever, you can stay at my house, tend to my gardens, I thought they were going to say something there of Daniel being still at the house working on the bonsai, or at least working at the bonsai shop. I thought they would have said, but they didn't. And I'm honestly, I'm okay with it. This movie is 20 plus years old at this point. This movie's 94. Yeah, it's 23 years old at this point. So, I mean, there's not much we can do about it now. I do, as I already mentioned, holy crap, Walton Goggins, Shane Van Zyl. That was a little, like, wait, what? I do like that.
Well, that's happened to me a couple of times. I'm watching like an old movie, and I'm like, oh, so and so was in this. Huh. It's like, whoa, wow, that's a surprise. I never knew that.
Yep. Absolutely. But overall, I enjoyed the next Karate Kid. If I was going to rank, because I only count the 4 films, I do not. The reboot. The reboot is a reboot, folks. We get it, but the 4 films, if I was gonna rate them in order of my favorites, it would probably be the first one, the second one, the third one, and then honestly in the order they came out with. Because let's face it, the first one is the best one. The second one is very good, and the second one is very good for the Miyagi part of the story, but the whole point of the first film was the Karate Kid, not the karate old man. And I'm not making fun of the guy, and may the guy rest in peace, because he did an amazing job as Miyagi. If I was going to, we have this GCRN universal rating scale, 0 to 5 stars. You can use half points. So essentially it's 0 to 10, but we just do 0 to 5 with halves. The first film has to be a 5. I absolutely loved watching the first film again. What about you for rating for the original?
Yeah, I'd give it a 5.
The second one for me, I'll give it a 4. There were a couple of things that I felt were a little slow there. I felt that the almost falling blindly in love with this girl immediately. You just got there. I mean, like, the whole thing in the first movie with the high school chick, you know, that was over time. That wasn't, you know, they went on a couple of dates at first, and then it expanded over time. But, you know, he gets off the plane, looks at this Japanese girl, and, you know.
Kind of,
so,
it helps. She knows how to make tea and knows how to dance, so, you know.
That's one thing we did. I'll have to bring that up in a second. So the second film, like I said, probably a 4.5. What about you?
4.5, 5.
Okay.
I mean, I have a better opinion, you know, in certain cases. Like, okay, yeah, he kind of falls blind head over heels, but, you know, I don't mind the romance part of it. It was nice also for Mr. Miyagi to get a little rekindling of his old romance, and
yeah, that was nice, very nice,
and interesting. And I looking back as an adult, I also have to laugh at the kind of Dragon Ball-esque type thing where it's, you know, Daniel versus Chosen, and, you know, Miyagi saying, you know, this for real, and of course Daniel trying to use the match-ending crane kick, and it fails.
Yeah,
because of course this is the next level boss. You know,
yeah,
gotta do the new technique.
Yep, absolutely. The third film, I give it a 3.5. It's not totally bad. There are some awesome moments in it.
Yeah, that's about the same. I'd give it about a 3.5. It's not. Yeah, there are some cool moments. Still gotta laugh when Terry Silver does the you know motions when he tries to attack Miyagi, fails miserably, and then Miyagi like throws it back at him, like bitch, shut up.
Yep, exactly.
You know,
with the next Karate Kid, one thing I forgot to mention. You know, we talked about the way he trained Daniel. You know, wax on, wax off, do all the housework for me, paint the this, do the that.
Paint the fence.
Yeah, paint the fence. The whole fence. You know, we talked about that. What I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about the next Karate Kid is how he trains Julie, because again, this whole thing ties into he ties into her family because he taught her grandfather karate, who then taught her father and her father. So she already knew karate. She just had to remember certain things. But Julie is very much, as beautiful as Hilary Swank is, that character is very much a tomboy. That character is very much, you know, so he basically shows her this new kata in order to teach her how to dance. And I thought that was an interesting kind of reversal of, okay, you already know the karate. You already know how to jump into the tiger position immediately as soon as you're attacked. So now we need to teach you something else. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, no, it's... again, this is one of those things where there are moments. There are fun little moments, so it's not completely bad, but it's... when you compare it to the original, it's... How do I put this? How do I put this gently? It's lacking.
It's not as lacking as the other one that we'll talk about here in a minute. But for me, with Next, I gotta give it a 3. It's Michael Ironside as the villain. It's just his voice alone gets it a 3.
You know what? Full on. That's the thing. It's like you get. You know, as a villain, Michael Ironside, it's like, yeah, we had, you know, I mean, compare and contrast, you have, you know, John Kreese, and then you have, you know, and then
Sato.
Michael Ironside, you know, you have Sato, but then, like, you have Michael Ironside's character that it's like, let's just go full-on villain. Let's not even, like, let's not even use the tournament or anything. Let's just, yeah, let's just do a full on. Let's break up the prom with like my paramilitary ROTC. You know,
that's the one thing that I did not understand about the next Karate Kid is why they broke up the prom. Like I know Ned sees Julie and McGowan together, But is that the only reason why they broke up the prom? Was because of that?
Yeah, and doing it like, doing it, evil terrorist organization. It's like just, dropping in from the ceiling and rappelling down. It's like, wow, man, you just overkill here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm half expecting them to just have the Cobra symbol on their chest and, start playing the theme from G.I. Joe the movie.
Yep, pretty
Crashing through the skies. Yeah, and I'm also I don't know, but the scene with Miyagi and the monks at the bowling alley was I mean it's like, yeah, it's funny, but for what you're expecting, I think, out of Karate Kid movies, it's not like, it doesn't fit.
Well, I think it fits for the movie because of the fact that you had them at the monastery. You had her immersed in their world. She had to follow. She killed the cockroach, and then she goes and finds the praying mantis and everything else, and so she was engrossed in their world, and they wanted to be engrossed in her world, and the bowling alley was the safest place for them.
Yeah, okay, I guess.
At least they weren't time-traveling daimyo soldiers. Ooh,
No.
hockey! Let's go play hockey!
Okay, yeah, okay. Nope, we're not getting into that. Nope. Wrong trilogy. Back out. Go in reverse. Yeah.
Mikey, come on!
Okay, enough.
I got shorts for all of us.
Lord.
All right, so
that cinematic sin for the rest of our lives.
All right, so the Karate Kid reboot, remake, 2010, Jackie Chan, Jaden Smith. Like I've said several times in this podcast, I just watched this 4 or 5 hours before we recorded this, and
yeah,
I wasn't sure how faithful they were going to. I don't want a complete redo of the first film.
Yeah,
and this really wasn't. They kind of they used certain things. The kid and his mother have to move because of her job, so that was one thing that was in the original. Except in this case, they're moving from the U.S. to China.
Yeah.
They're moving from Detroit to China. Okay. Alrighty then. And there were certain things about Mr. Han that I thought was going to be similar to Mr. Miyagi, and there are a couple of things that I did laugh at because I thought it was funny. Because if you look at it's either the first or it is the first film, because the first film Daniel's trying to catch the fly with the chopstick, and he eventually does. But at first, when he first walks into Mr. Miyagi's place, he says, "Why don't you just use a fly swatter?" And of course, because it's 2010, and everybody has to remind the people that saw this as a kid, the joke from the original movie, when I saw Jackie using the chop, I'm like, okay, he's going to do it. No, he brings out a blue fly swatter. God damn it.
Yeah.
God damn it, Jackie Chan.
Well, it's one of those that's like, it's something that I hate in modern film, where it's like, sometimes you have to hang, you have to lampshade hang, and it's like you're sending the message of, we realize how ridiculous this is. So yeah, you got the thing of, why don't you just use a fly swatter? So it's like one of these things where, you just know the writers are patting themselves on the back and, just going, ha 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 ha, we're acknowledging how ridiculous it is, ha 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 ha. And I just feel like being like, what you're being is an a-hole. You're being a giant a-hole, because it's like, okay, we gotta be all like, it's silly to do catching the fly with the chopsticks. And I'm just like, you know what? You're being a jerk. F you. Get out.
Yeah.
It's just F you. We're having a good time here, and you got to be like, that sounds ridiculous. It's like, how about this? It's a bloody movie. It's a movie. We're having fun. Don't step on my fun.
Yeah.
Kiss my ass. I want to see the chopsticks, not the fly swatter. Gah. Jerk. Sorry, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm all right.
You all right? You sure?
I'm calm. No, I'm calm. I'm good. I got it out.
Do I need to make you just, come out of your shell?
No, no, bad TFG1 Mike, bad. No.
I love that music. But anyway, so the reboot. It's, as I've kind of already said, it's basically almost the same story as the first movie. It pretty much is a little bit, you've got the Chinese kids picking on the black kid, and you've got the old maintenance man coming in to rescue him and whatever else, and eventually trains him in the art of kung fu, and it has a battle at the end, and has this whole story with this girl and whatever. But I gotta say, while Jackie Chan was probably the best part of this movie, Jaden Smith was the worst. Oh my God, okay, look, in the Smith family, acting skipped a generation, because you look at anything Will Smith did 20, 30 years ago was amazing. Fresh Prince, any of the music videos, any of his early 90s, mid-90s movies, amazing, excellent, and awesome. You even look at the later movies he's done, like The Pursuit of Happiness and a few other things. Amazingly awesome actor. But this kid can't act his way out of a fucking paper bag.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it just. Oh God, how do oh Lord, because see, oh God, when I'm trying to be nice here. I really am. I want to be nice. I want to be a nice guy, but it's just.
Dude, just rip the Band-Aid off.
It's just yeah, no, he's a bad actor. Like Will Smith is great. He's fun. But it's like, oh God, I don't. Oh man, this kid is bad. It's just, and it's just. I mean, I think this is watching the reboot, and then trying to collect my thoughts for this. It's like something crystallized in me, and what gets me is that, okay, I look at the original Karate Kid, and you look at like the main actors. Elizabeth Shue was like an unknown. Pat Morita, if anybody watching this movie remembers him, they remember him for Happy Days, so they're watching it and they're like, oh yeah, it's the guy from Happy Days. And then I think Ralph Macchio, the biggest thing he did before Karate Kid was The Outsiders.
Yeah.
So these are people before they hit their fame.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that you watch the Karate Kid and you're thinking, that's Daniel, that's Mr. Miyagi. Yeah. The Kung Fu Kid, the reboot, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's obvious that when they cast this, they're not trying to find the next big thing. When this movie was created, it was, okay, well, Will Smith's kid wants to get into acting. The big thing is rebooting or redoing old stuff. We got a bunch of people who have grown up in the 80s with the Karate Kid. Let's do a new Karate Kid, so then, the adults that grew up with the original can be like, yay, let's feed our nostalgia monkey, and let's have our kids along so they can enjoy. They can get the same enjoyment. And we need a new Pat Morita. Let's get Jackie Chan. So then they'll be like, oh, and Jackie Chan's in this, so it's got to be good. Then it comes off as soulless. It just like. It just has no soul, because it's like it's a vehicle for Jaden Smith. It's a vehicle to say, welcome to making films, Jaden Smith, and it just
and okay, so the other thing I wanted to bring up was every time you saw Mr. Miyagi come in and do any kind of karate in any of the 4 original films,
yep,
it was always against people older. Not old people, but not kids. It was teenagers, it was adults, it was not...
Yep.
And that's the thing I have a slight problem with this is you've got Jackie Chan beating up children.
Yeah.
Like, look, I'm not saying that these kids were not going to kick his ass, but I'm saying that the way that first fight scene was choreographed, it looks like he's beating up kids.
Well, it doesn't... it doesn't help that Daniel and the Cobra Kais were basically like in mid to late teens. Like Daniel, I think. If I remember at the start of Karate Kid, Daniel's like 15, 16. Like he has his birthday and he gets a car.
Yeah. They're teenagers, but these kids in this, I don't even know how old the Jaden Smith character is supposed to be.
If he's a teen, he's like early teens.
Yeah, like 12, 13.
Yeah,
and those other kids, other kids are like maybe 13, 14.
14, yeah. Yeah, so
and thank God I never read anything up on the music of this until right before we did this, because you look at the original two films. Most of the first film, there really isn't an actual licensed song for the first film. There's Bill Conti's score. That's all the first film really needs.
And you do have "You're the Best." You're the best around.
Okay, yeah, you got "You're the Best." In the second one, you got Bill Conti's score, and you got "Gloria Love." Yeah. In the third one, you got whatever was in the third one. I don't remember off the top of my head.
I can't remember any. I do know that the first one you had Bill Conti's score. You had you had "You're the Best Around," which was playing during the tournament montage, and then also the song that they kind of attached to it was Bananarama's "Cruel Summer," which which was playing at a couple of points, but and
that's fine.
Yeah, and then the second one you had Conti's score. You had "Glory of Love," and then there was a song that was playing when they first enter like the bar, which it was called something like "Fish for Life" or something like that.
Something like that.
Something like that. So you kind of had two songs, but you didn't have like a soundtrack.
So we fast forward to 2010 and the reboot, and they use, according to this, the official theme song to the film is "Never Say Never."
Ugh.
I know it's 2010, folks, but Justin Bieber, really, in a Karate Kid movie? Really?
Yeah, that, see that, I heard, see...
I would rather listen to Coming Out of Their Shells on repeat than listen to any of his music.
Oh, God, yeah, and not to mention the fact that it's like, oh, man, it just, like, you compare that to something like, you just compare that to, like, the songs that were used before, and it's just like I said, soulless.
What I find absolutely hilarious about the 2010 reboot for Kung Fu Kid, Karate Kid, whatever.
Yeah.
On Wikipedia, they list a potential sequel, but no news about it has come out since June 25th of 2014.
No, I saw that. I think there's actually an IMDb page for the potential sequel, but like no information. I think the only people that they have listed are Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan. And it's like, I just like, honestly, I hope that's one of those things that never materializes. Because I mean, really, it just the reboot was just soulless and not, and just totally not fun.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
there was no. I mean, at least like even Karate Kid 3. I mean, you had some element of fun and some things that you could enjoy. Like, for example, Miyagi kind of doing the wah thing to Terry Silver after he kicks his ass, or just like the meteor shower of Cobra Kai T-shirts as people are booing Kreese and Silver at the end. I mean, that's, whereas this is just and it's like I feel bad, not because it's like, oh God, I'm ragging on a kid, I feel bad because it's like I like Jackie Chan, so I don't want to think about the fact that he's a part of this, because it's like I feel bad then, because it's like, oh, I don't want to, because it's like, there's just so much. There's so many fun things associated with Jackie Chan, going all the way back. For me, going all the way back to the first Cannonball Run movie, where where it was him and another guy in the Honda, and like pulling off turning the end of the movie into a kung fu movie as they beat up bikers. That's the thing I want to think about. I don't want to think about the fact that he did this. I don't.
Yeah.
Don't
All
do
right,
that.
so really quickly before we get out of here, looking at Smith's filmography, he had a cameo role in Men in Black 2, which I don't even remember him in that. That's fine.
Neither do I, and I think we're better off for it.
Yeah, I mean, I like Men in Black 2, but I'm glad I did not remember him from that movie. He was in Pursuit of Happiness with his dad, obviously, in 2006.
Yep.
Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, he had a small part in that?
Jacob Benson Jr.
Okay,
so,
I guess.
The Kung Fu Kid.
Can't remember, and I'm better for it. I hate The Day the Earth Stood Still. I don't need any more negative energy by knowing that the kid is in it.
Yeah, he was himself in Never Say Never from Justin Bieber. And then the last film he did was 4 years ago, After Earth.
Yeah, that was no. I think now he has now he's focusing on, and I'm using air quotes here,
music.
That's the thing. It's like he's doing a reverse of his dad. Let me do, I'm going to do movies, and then I'm going to act like I'm a musician.
Yeah.
So he's doing a reverse. I'm going to now focus on the music and act like I'm God's gift to music. And please excuse me for blasphemy, but I think the Almighty is upstairs going, "No, I have nothing to do with this." I mean, I think even Satan is like in the other place going, "Don't look at me. No, don't look at me. I'm not in this either.
It's
Come on,
Ezreal.
Don't drag me down on this. Don't drag me down on this one. I ain't responsible. Not me."
Yep. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here on M-Wire episode 134. Join myself, Steve Megatron, Movie Rule, Dan, and Optimus Solo, hopefully, if we can all get our schedules together, for episode 135 when The Force Awakens inside Rogue One. Yes, that's right. We're going to be talking about The Force Awakens and Rogue One next time around.
Because Cassian tells you to?
Yeah, pretty much. So that's what's coming up.
We have to review both movies. Cassian told me to. There you go. I think I got your tagline.
There we go.
You're welcome.
I figure, why have two separate episodes? And they're both Star Wars movies. We've already spent 5.5 hours on the prequels and the original trilogy combined. So,
thank God it's combined, because I was about to say you spent 5.5 hours on the prequels. You poor man. No wonder you're having so much trouble right now.
3 hours on the original trilogy and 2.5 hours on the prequels, so 5.5 hours total. Anyway, episode 135 coming soon, only on Movie Week in Review here on the Geekcast Radio Network. Where can the people find you online, sir?
Well, still, you could find some of my stuff if you go to www.letsbereals.com, reels spelled with Z. You can find articles that I've written on Geek News, and you can find a link to the show, which is done live, usually almost every Saturday. And you can find me on Twitter, still the same thing, White Balloon King, spelled WHTBLLNKING, because word limit, thanks Twitter. And yeah, I'm on Facebook, so I am on the web. I am everywhere.
Yes, he's on the web, swinging around.
Yep, and not crying over Gwen Stacy. I've moved on.
Yeah. All right, folks, join us next time when we journey to a galaxy not so far, far away, and we will catch you next time here on Movie Week in Review.
Who are you?
I'm no one.
I was raised to do one thing. But I've got nothing to fight for.
The world is coming undone. Imperial flags reign across the galaxy.
Can you be trusted without your shackles?
Let's just get this over with, shall we?
We've a mission for you. A major weapons test is imminent. We need to know how to destroy it.
You've just listened to Movie Week in Review on GeekCastRadio.com. If you would like to leave feedback on the show, there are many ways to do so. First, you can visit the website, GeekCastRadio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. Be sure to rate our show on iTunes and leave us feedback. You can follow us on Twitter at GCRNMwire. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. You can email us at feedback@geekcastradio.com. Call the voicemail line 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. So until next time, unleash the geek in you.
In a world, there, I said it, happy